We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 19b. And the previous summit, the Gemara said, do you mean to say that the seeds, that they grow litzdodin kamishtarshi? Do you mean to say that they take root to the sides? Rashi explains, litzdodin kamishtarshi machlidin mitachas lakosal. It sounds like from our Mishnah that the roots, when you put seeds in the ground, that causes damage to the wall, it causes damage, umekalkalim yasodu, it causes damage to the foundation. That sounds like the roots are spreading to the sides. But the Gemara says, V'atanan, but we learned in the Mishnah, this is a Mishnah Meseches Kelayim, Hamavrech es hagefen ba'aretz. Let's say somebody takes a vine, the branch of a vine, and he puts it underneath the ground that should grow new, so to speak. So Emein al gabo offer shlosha tvachim, if on top of it you don't have dirt, 3 tvachim high, covering over the vine, so lo yavi zera aleh, you can't plant a seed over there, because that's a problem of Kelayim. V'tani alon, we learned on this Mishnah, Avol zoreas atzdodin, you could put seeds to the sides of the branch, Ve'elach on either side, and the idea is because the seeds, they only grow downward, they don't grow to the side, so that's why it's not a problem of kilayim. And so from here it seems like seeds only grow downward, they don't grow to the sides. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Chaga, B'Shem Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Chaga says in the name of Rabbi Yossi, Mevnei shemachlidin es hakarka u'malan afer tichoach. Even though the roots don't spread to the sides, but they do disrupt the earth, and they cause the earth to be loose, and that is essentially what upsets the foundation of the wall. And Rashi explains, Hamavrech es hagefen gefen yechidi she'ein bizroim she'etzlo misham irvuv de'ein kerem bepachos michamesh gefanim. Rashi says we're talking about one single vine, so therefore you don't have a problem that it's called a kerem, which would therefore cause it to be considered a problem of kilayim. It's only called a kerem if you have 5 gefanim, 5 vines, shtayim keneged shtayim, you have to have 2 opposite each other, v'yachas yotzei zanav, and then 1 more. Ela shelo yonak hazerem and a gefen. The only issue when you have a gefen yechidi is you don't want that the zera should get nutrients from the gefen. And again, Mavrich is talking about a situation where you put it underneath the earth to let it grow again. Mavrich kemo vayavrich gemalim kofev zemuras gefen mechuberes umavricha bekarka betzideh. You take the branch of a vine, you put it into the nearby land, lakan or lakan, shemachlidin es hakarka. And then the Gemara said, even though the seeds really don't grow to the side, but still they damage the earth, meaning eitzel hakosel b'makom, wherever they are, they damage the land over there. Umalin afer tichoach umismotet karka, it causes the earth over there to loosen. Yisod hakosel etzadim, that causes problems with the foundation of the wall. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Vesmei raglayim in hakosel gimel tvachim, you have to distance the urine from the wall 3 tvachim. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabba bar bar Chana, Rabba bar bar Chana says, Mutter lo adam lahashtin mayim, it is permissible for a person to urinate betzad kosel shel chaveiro, near the wall of his friend. Tichsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, v'chrati la'achav, it says that I'm going to cut off from achav mashtin bekir, those who urinate against the wall. It essentially means men who urinate against the wall when they're standing up. The Otzer v'Ozu b'Yisrael, and those that are gathered in, and that which is left out among Klal Yisrael, that might mean the wealth that's in the storehouses, and the Ozav is the animals that are left out, that kind of property. The point is that everything of Achav was going to be cut off, but in any case, we're learning from this pasuk, Mashtan Bekir, that it's permissible for a person to urinate against the wall of his neighbor. And so the Gemara asks from our Mishnah, V'hanon Tanan, didn't we learn in our Mishnah? You have to distance the urine from the wall 3 tvachim. That sounds like it's damaging to the wall. And the Gemara answers, Hasam over there, b'shofchin. In our Mishnah, we're talking about shofchin, meaning you're pouring the urine from a container, not that it's coming out of the person's body, and that's why it's more problematic in that situation. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come in here a proof from the following brayso, lo yashin adam mayim b'tzad kosel shel chaveiro, a person should not urinate by the wall of his friend, elim ken hirchag mimenu gimel tvachim, unless he's 3 tvachim away. B'med devarim amurim b'kosel levenim, when is this true? That's by a wall made from bricks. Aval b'kosel avanim, but if it's made from stones, b'chdei shelo yazik, then the person should just distance himself enough that he does not cause damage. V'kama, how much distance is that? Tefach, it's a tefach. V'shel sunma, and then if there's a rock, if it's made out of rock, meaning the wall, so then mutter, it's going to be mutter. And Rashi explains, B'kosa levenim shem shel titch, and is yavshu b'chama, that's made again out of these bricks that are dried in the heat. V'hem nimokim machmas hamayim, they melt because of the water. V'kama tefach, and how much do you have to distance again from the stone wall? That's a tefach, mimnei shemitashtish, as a karka samach liyasod hakosel. kosel. Again, that ruins the earth that's near the foundation of the wall. And then it said if it's uvitsunma, that means to say im kosel zeh bonei b'sala. That means that the wall doesn't mean the wall's made of stone, but it means it's built on stone. The lekel mechash betishtush karka. You don't have a problem that the earth over there, the foundation, is going to be ruined. So then it's going to be mutter in that situation. In any case, it says over here that it is a problem. In general, a person should not urinate by the wall of his friend. And so the Gemara says, Tiyufta de Rabba bar Chana, should we say this is a refutation of Rabba bar Chana? And the Gemara says, yes, Tiyufta, it's a refutation of Rabba bar Chana, because Rabba bar Chana said there's no problem urinating against the wall of the neighbor. But the Gemara says, Rabba bar Chana kroko amar, but Rabba bar Chana, he cited the pasuk. Again, the pasuk, when it talked about destroying the household of Achav, it talked about the mashtin bekir, those who urinate against the wall. It seems to be talking about people. And the Gemara says, no, Hasam over there, Hachi Kamar, this is what the pasuk is saying. Afilu midi de darke lishtune bekir, means even something that its way is to urinate by a wall, lo shaviknale, even that's not going to be remaining. Umayniu, and what's the pasuk actually referring to? Kalba, it's referring to a dog. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Tuvi bar Kisna Mar Shmuel. Rav Tuvi bar Kisna says that Shmuel says, Rokik, a wafer, eino memayit bechalon, it doesn't minimize, it doesn't take up space within the window. Rashi here explains, eino memayit bechalon shebein bayis labayis. We're talking here about one window that connects two houses. V'yesh bo poseach tefach, and the window is a tefach large. V'meis munach ba'achas mehen. Now there's a dead body, there's a corpse in one of the houses. V'tuma bokas letzad sheni. The halach is the tuma goes into the second house through the window. So if the window is a little smaller, the tumah will not go through. So ein rakik memayit shira. And the point is, if you put a little wafer there by the window, it doesn't make it that the window is considered smaller, milahotzi tumah, to stop the tumah from going through. The kavan deroy lachila, since it's something that can be eaten, lo mevatel hasam, he doesn't nullify it over there. We don't assume that it's just going to stay there. Denahava kemechitza, therefore it's not considered like a mechitza. If you would nullify it over there, it would be like a mechitza. Then the window would be too small for the tumah to go through. His point is that the rakik, this wafer, is not going to make the window considered to be a smaller opening. And the Gemara says, "My ear yerakik." Well, why do you have to say that by a wafer for afilu avanami, even a thick piece of bread? Shouldn't that be the same halacha? And the Gemara says, "Lomi boy kamer." We're saying not only this, but even this. Lomi boy ava. We don't need to tell you by a thick piece of bread. Kaven de ichsile, since that's something that's fit to still eat. Lo mevatale. He certainly doesn't nullify it, and certainly it's not going to minimize the open space. Avol rakik, but a wafer de mimis, which becomes disgusting. So ema bitule maftile. I might think that he nullifies it to the window. It becomes a part of the window. It's more closed. Kamash Malon. So that's what Shmuel is teaching, that is not the case. But the Gemara says, "V'teipa klei dehavale davar shu makabel tumah." Well, why don't we just give a different reason why it's not memayit bechalon? Because food is something that's makabel tumah. It receives tumah. V'chol davar shu makabel tumah, and the halacha is anything that's makabel tumah. Eino chotzes b'fnei hatumah. It's not going to be a separation. It's not going to stop tumah from passing. And the Gemara says, well, we could be talking about a wafer shenilosh b'mei peiros, that it was kneaded with fruit juice, and then it's actually not makabel tumah. And Rashi here explains, avol rokik demois, if it's a wafer that's disgusting, mitoch shudak, because it's very thin, v'lichlach hakosal meratvo nima, so you have moisture from the wall, and that makes it disgusting. So again, in that case, maybe it would be nullified to the window, so we're teaching that's not the case. And the Gemara said, we're talking here about a wafer shenilosh b'mei peiros, that it was kneaded with fruit juice, she'enan machshirin, that's not a kind of liquid that prepares it to be makabel tumah. It has to touch one of the liquids that prepares it from being makabel tumah. Ve'enochel makabel tumah, the halach is food is not makabel tumah, below hechsher mashke hakari mashke, it has to have a hechsher, and the hechsher has to be that it touches the proper kind of liquid. For example, kagon mayim, v'yayin, v'chola, for example, water, wine, or milk, those would be machsher l'kabel tumah, but mei peiros would not be machsher to be makabel tumah. And the Gemara continues, meisvei, we have a question from the following Mishnah Meseches Alos, kupa malaya tevin, if you have a box that's filled with straw, v'chavis malaya grogro, so let's say you have a barrel that's filled with dried figs, hamunachim and bechalon, and they're placed in a window. So Rowan, so we have to see, kol she'ilu yinatlu, if you would take away the box, meaning the container, or you're going to take away the barrel, v'yacholin tevinu grogros lamod b'fnei atzman, and the straw or the dried figs could stand on their own there in the window, so then chotzitzin, so then we say that it is in fact a chatzitza, it does separate from tumah, v'imlav, and if not in chotzitzin, then it won't separate from the tumah. So here we seem to say that tevin, when it comes to straw, or grogros, when it comes to dried figs, that could be a chatzitza from tumah. And so the Gemara asks, "V'ataven but straw chazi levhemto." That's like a food that's fit to feed to the animal, and so therefore it's something that you should assume you're going to take away. Why is that a chatzitza? And the Gemara says besaria, we're talking where it's spoiled, but the Gemara still says chazi latina, but still, isn't it? Can you use straw to make bricks? And the Gemara says the ispe kotzi, we're talking where it has thorns, it's not fit for that. And the Gemara says, well, chazi la'asaka, well, isn't it fit for a fire? So it's still usable. You're going to take it away from the window. The Gemara says b'masuna, we're talking where it's moist, it's wet, it can't be used for fire. And the Gemara says chazi la'hasagadol, but can it be used for a very large fire even if it's wet? And the Gemara says hasagadol lo shchiach. The Gemara says that a large fire is not common. And the Gemara says grogros, well, dried figs, hachazule, that's also fit for him. He can eat those. And the Gemara says Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says b'sheis rifu, when they're full of worms. V'chein tani Rabba Baravua teaches the same thing, b'sheis rifu, when they're full of worms. And the Gemara says hay chavis hechidamya. Well, what about the barrel? What's the situation with the barrel? Idepuma lebar, if the opening of the barrel is facing away from the tumah. And Rashi explains, v'chavis male grogros, again a barrel full of dried figs, te'enim yeveshim ukagon shelo. We're talking about dried figs that were not prepared to be makabel tumah. Kol she'ilu yinatalu hakupa v'chavis, if you take away the box or you take away the barrel, v'yecholin hateven o agrogros lamod, and the straw or the dried figs could remain there, b'fnei atzman on their own, chotzitzin b'fnei atumah, then they separate from the tumah. V'yimlav ein chotzitzin, if not, then they don't separate. Sha'chavis v'hakupa ein chotzitzin lefi shein makabel tumah. The chavis and the kupa are vessels. They're makabel tumah, so they're not going to be chotzetz. The Gemara said sarya. The Gemara said we're talking where the straw is nirkav, it's spoiled. V'achazi latina, isn't it fit to make bricks with? V'lo mevatale, he won't nullify it over there. And Rashi continues, dispe kotze, again the straw has thorns, therefore you can't make bricks. And the reason is v'hein hayu romsin beraglein betit, because when they would make the bricks, they would step upon it with their feet, and there would be tit over there would be clay or mud, and if it has thorns, you can't do that. Hachazu la'achila, so then the Gemara said, well, can't it be eaten? Kulu hanach tiyufta de Shmuel damar midi de chazi litlo misham la'achar zman in mamayit bechalon. Again, as long as it's fit for something, this is a refutation for Shmuel, because Shmuel said if it's fit for something and you're going to take it away, then it's not mamayit in the chalon. It doesn't take up the space of the window. And the Gemara says bishi hisrifu. Again, the Gemara said when it comes to the grogros, the dried figs, so it's hisrifu hisliu, meaning to say it's full of worms, and that's why they're not fit to be eaten. And then the Gemara said in terms of the barrel, ipume labar, if it's facing letzad habayis she'ein hameis besochu, if it's facing towards the house where there is no corpse, it's facing away from the tumah. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chaf Amud Aleph.